Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. There's another Raid Shadow Legends video. We are going to be talking about the Myth Heiress comp that we put out yesterday. Now, there were a lot of questions I had actually in the comments. I was kind of surprised how many questions there were. A lot of them centered around who can I use instead of X champion? Can I use Y or Z or whomever? So I definitely want to cover that with you guys. I also want to talk a little bit at the end of this video about the fusion itself, whether you should go for the epics or whether you should go for the legendary, because to be honest, it's a tough choice this time. All the champions are good here, so you definitely have some options as far as ways to go. So I'm going to talk about that briefly. I am going to show this comp in the calculator so you have an understanding of how it works and why. And I'm also going to show you an alternate run where I use an epic champion, so you know you don't have to use Draco to make this work. You don't need any legendaries for this comp to do 1 key damage. You need god tier gear, I will give you that, but you don't need any legendaries. So it definitely has a lot of potential to this composition, and I'm sure there's going to be ways that you guys are going to be able to optimize it even further, since this is really a brand new composition. Now, real quick, I do want to talk about some substitute champions that we can use for this build. First, though, we're going to look at it in the calculator. Then we're going to show the secondary run. And then at the end, or near the end, I'm going to actually talk about alternate champions you guys can bring into this team instead of the ones that we have that I presented to you yesterday. There's not a ton. You do need some of these champions in here, but there are a couple options that you can do instead of some of the other ones. Okay, here we are in the calculator, and I want to kind of give you guys an idea of how this works. Now, obviously, I have it pretty zoomed out here, but let's look at how the build looks when it's finished. You can see right here now, Heiress is purple. She does the remove, she does the cleanse and the speed up, right? You can see she's going at the top of every single turn. And then this God Seeker is a placeholder basically for Demytha. In fact, why don't we go ahead and just type in Demytha so we understand who we're using. So we have Demytha now in there. She goes last to place that Unkillable, and you can see that happening every single turn. And this is how you know when you're in tune, by the way, is when you have the same pattern repeating over and over and over. Once you know that that's happening, go to the beginning of it, and that's when you know you can click auto and you'll be good. So right here, turn 2, we are in the tune. It happens incredibly fast. And because of that, we're able to get Demytha going last in the Unkillable part. Now, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here, so you have an understanding of, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, a little bit less. There we go. So now you can see a little bit better. Now, what's happening is Heiress is putting up that increased speed buff right there, right? And with that, we're also going to extend it with Demytha right after, which is just fantastic. Now you can see Demytha goes after Deacon. If Deacon takes the stun, Demytha could cleanse that. We don't necessarily need Heiress for that. So we could bring in another champion that just gives us a speed buff instead. I don't necessarily recommend it because, you know, predicting the stun can always be a challenge. But, you know, if we know that the stun's going to Deacon, then we can have Demytha do that cleanse because she goes in front of him. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. But yeah, we have Heiress doing that. Demytha extends it, so now we have the increased speed buff on pretty much all of our champions for the whole fight. And then as we go further down, you can see Seeker takes a double turn to give us that turn meter boost, and then Deacon takes another double turn. And this is how, after Demytha's second turn, she gets a third attack, is because of that. Same thing with Heiress here. They both take 2 attacks before Deacon or Seeker take their second turn, and then because of the turn meter boost, they're able to get a third attack in there. And that's how this is able to work. It obviously takes a lot of turn meter boosters. The only way to get to a 3-1 ratio really is to have 3 people. You need a huge turn meter boost to go from 2 to 3. And you usually need some kind of turn meter boost to even go from the first attack to the second attack. And you definitely need that speed buff. So between those 3 champions, Heiress, Seeker, and Deacon, we're getting all of that. We're able to take that third turn, come back around, and be unkillable in this team. So when you go, hey, can I replace champion X with champion Y? It's going to be really hard in this kind of a team. I never say never. I don't know how. I would suggest you play with the calculator and try and figure it out, but it's certainly possible. It's just going to be tricky because we need to, 1, keep that speed buff up 100% of the time. And 2, we need to get that turn meter boost in the back half of the run, because by the time Heiress takes her next turn here, the clan boss almost has a full turn meter already, right? So we need to be able to catch up. Not only do the other champions have to catch up and exceed the clan boss, but Heiress has to come all the way back from 0 and catch, and so does Demytha. That becomes really, really challenging. You can see here, when Demytha takes her second turn, the clan boss already has a full turn meter. So at this point, we have to then outspeed the clan boss from here on out. And that's the trick with these teams. And to take a third turn becomes really, really hard. We need those turn meter boosts from Seeker so that Demytha goes from... So let's see if I can figure this out. So Demytha would have 0 turn meter, or just like 1 turn meter here. Ugh, there you go. So we get the boost from Seeker. Demytha bumps up a little bit. There's the turn meter boost, 30%. So now she's got half of a turn meter bar. Warboy goes, Heiress goes, Deacon takes his turn. We're still behind the clan boss in turn meter fill. There we go. We get another turn meter boost from Deacon, and that's just enough to allow Demytha to catch up and exceed the clan boss. I don't know if you guys followed that. It was a little confusing, but the point is that you have to get that turn meter boost to catch back up to the clan boss after taking 2 full turns before they've taken 1. It's a real challenge. And this is also why we're going at these crazy speeds for Demytha, 274. That is with the aura from Deacon. So it's really a true speed of almost 300, 293 or so. But we can keep everybody's speeds really low by using Deacon, using his aura, and it can be really effective. Now, there's obviously champions we can bring in, but those Deacon and Seeker, because of those extra turns, they go in a 2-turn ratio. It happens every single time. That's kind of what we need. You can bring in champions like Haikatoon, Apothecary, and get littler turn meter boosts, but they also happen on 3-turn duration. So it's a lot harder. The speed requirements be a lot higher in order to get these same kind of results. So it's a lot more challenging. Not to say it's not doable, but just a lot more challenging. So either they'd have to be on a 3-1 ratio as well, or you'd have to, have multiples and have them alternating and figure it all out. And it's a lot of work. And honestly, I don't know what the answer to that would be. But this team works really great. It's such a smart move. Getting the cleanse from Heiress is great. Getting the extension from Demytha as well as Unkillable makes this all work. She's really just a fabulous, fabulous champion. So let's go check out the runs real quick. My big goal was, let's do this without a legendary champion, right? Let's make it all epics or rares. And so I figured, well, let's look at the new champion, Scabrius, right? I mean, this little rat guy, he looks like he's got the kind of kit that would work. He brings a little bit of poison. He definitely brings weaken. So let's try him. I put him in a toxic set, trying to just make sure there's poisons up the entire time to get the benefits of his passive. And, in the beginning, it didn't look like it was going to be that great. Like, he was doing okay damage, but, nothing to write home about. But by the end of this, his skills seem to hit pretty darn hard. That A2 especially has a really strong damage multiplier, it looks like. So I'll show you guys the very end of this run so you kind of get an idea of what the potential of this team would be even without Draco. So you guys can see 1 key damage even without Draco. Scabrius did pretty darn good. I was really surprised by that. Now, Scabrius on his own is probably not somebody I would say, oh yeah, definitely want to keep him. He seems like an okay champion that kind of can be filled in with a variety of other champions. But he did a good job. I mean, obviously I have amazing gear on these champions. It's not like I'm skimping on it. So maybe you couldn't get to those numbers. I just feel like damage dealers are kind of a dime a dozen. He brings weaken, he brings a little bit of poison. It's not exceptional at any of it. So I'm not sure that I would necessarily want to use him for this particular team. But he did a pretty darn good job. I was not angry or upset at what he brought to the table there. My go-to would probably be Fane. My guess is she's just probably going to be the best at this type of a thing. And Nax would also be a really good choice as well. But yeah, I mean, Scabrius did really good. I was really surprised. His A2 hit really hard, well over 200,000, which I was very surprised by. So, I mean, he's definitely a solid damage dealer. But you can see this team works incredibly well, regardless of who you bring it in, stays affinity friendly, stays very consistent, and it sets up very quickly. Also, it has a rare champion in it, so those advanced quests, you don't have to worry about that as well. So a lot of stuff to like about this. So I do want to take a moment and talk about some of the alternate champions you can use. Now we talk, this is called the Myth Heiress comp because it involves Heiress, this rare farmable from campaign champion who's just amazing. She's got an amazing kit where she can remove debuffs on her A2 and put an increased speed buff on. It's a wonderful combination. The fact that we have her going first in the comp and she gets that speed buff, and this is what makes this team work and stay affinity friendly. If you were paying attention though, when I was talking about the calculator, you would have noticed that we actually will go, oh God, what's her name? Demytha will go in front of Deacon Armstrong. That means Demytha can cleanse any stun that hits Deacon. Doesn't mean she's going to be able to cleanse all the debuffs that happen along the way for affinity, but the stun on Deacon, she can cleanse. That means you don't 100% need Heiress in that team unless you're going against Spirit Affinity, in which case, of course, you need Heiress on that team because you need to be able to cleanse the speed debuff, right? That is where you really need Heiress or one substitute that I will mention here. Otherwise, you can use a different speed boost type of champion. What you need then, you don't need the cleanse from this ability. What you need is the speed buff, right? Now, she has it without turn meter increase. If you add turn meter increase, it does change things up a little bit, but there are substitutions. So if you're not worried about affinity, you can use pretty much any champion that has a 3-turn speed buff increase on their skill. And the lower the turn meter, the easier it is to substitute them in. So an apothecary actually can work in that spot. I would recommend giving it a 3-turn delay just so you can, I think that helps sync it up actually a little bit faster, strangely enough, to offset the turn meter boost, I believe. But you can use an apothecary in there. Now you do have to, you have to massage the tune a little bit, but he will work in this comp because he has a 3-turn when booked speed buff, plus fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. Now that turn meter fill is what makes him work differently than Heiress, but he will work in this type of a team. If you're going to use apothecary, that means any champion like that can work. So that means High Katoon can work as well. Those are the two that are the most common. Now, the one champion I would say is a definite improvement, or I would probably argue is an improvement at least, over Heiress is going to be to Hanorok. She is 100% a straight buff. She gives you that speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. Increased defense buff. She gives you, a bunch of other debuffs that you actually don't need, and some healing. So like a lot of this stuff, not necessary, but what she does do is she cleanses. So you can use her instead of Heiress and stay affinity friendly. That is really effective. Definitely something I would recommend taking keeping an eye on with that. She can be really good. She'll also give you an increased defense buff. So if you bring in a defensive base damage dealer for your DPS like a Rosin, she can work and make him even stronger. So she's definitely somebody I would recommend looking at for that. Another champion, if you're not worried about affinity, would be Lydia. Obviously, she has a increased speed buff on a 3-turn cooldown, right? Also brings decreased defense and weaken. Pretty amazing champion. Now, okay, that's Heiress. She's farmable. We don't really need to replace her. The ones we really need to worry about are going to be the two that, honestly, there aren't substitutes for these guys. These two are pretty essential. And we're talking about, of course, Seeker, and we're talking about Deacon Armstrong. Now, the reason why Seeker's so good is he's in Deacon Armstrong, same thing. They have a turn meter boost with an extra turn immediately after, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. That means these skills happen on 2-turn cooldowns in essence, right? Every other attack, they're going to give you that turn meter boost. That means they only have to be on a 2-1 ratio in order to make this comp work. We're talking about Seeker, and we're talking about Deacon when we talk about these things, right? These are just outstanding champions with no real substitute. There's only 3 champions in the game that do something similar to this. The third one is Mashald, but he doesn't give you a turn meter boost. He gives you a speed buff. We already have that from Heiress. It's already being extended. He's not going to be helpful for this comp. We need Deacon and we need Seeker. So just understand those two are pretty much essential. Now, obviously, you need Demytha. She's the one that makes the comp work. And the very last spot is the DPS. Now, you just saw we use Scabious in it. So you don't need a legendary. You don't need a Draco to do 1 key damage with this team. But what you are looking for with Deacon, you can get decreased defense. So we're looking for someone that gives us weaken, ideally, and poison, secondly. But you can always put one of your champions in toxic gear. So if you can get a really solid damage dealer, someone like a Gentoro, a Rosin, even someone like a Harkless Great Blade, I think could be really good. They can still do the damage just by bringing the weaken debuff, which is what we really need. And then you can put someone, ideally, actually, Heiress, I think would be great, in and give her a toxic set, because Heiress also gets a free counterattack with her passive. She's a crazy kid, guys. She's very, very good. In any case, so those are the substitutes that you can use. It's not a lot of them. I understand that. No, Doom Priest doesn't work because, yeah, he does a cleanse, but what doesn't he do? Give you that speed buff. You want to use Doom Screech? Well, yeah, he's got a great speed turn meter boost. Same thing with an Arbiter. There's lots of champions that give you a turn meter boost, but they're not on 2-turn cooldowns. That's the key to making this work. So as much as I'd love to have other options for champions in this comp, they don't exist. Now, that does not mean there aren't other builds. I have a bunch of other builds I will be doing throughout the week, showing you other ways you can build this champion where you maybe don't even need any turn meter boost at all. So there's going to be options for you, but for this particular comp, the champions we're using, there's really no substitutes for Deacon, for Seeker, for Demytha. For Heiress, there's a couple, and obviously for the DPS, there's a bunch. So look, guys, Demytha is the legend. I mean, she's just fantastic, I think, for this. So much so that I think this is a good point to actually talk a little bit about the fusion and just say that I would recommend fusing Demytha over Sigmund the Hightower. Now, it's not to say she's better than Sigmund. She's not. They have different roles, right? They do different things, but several of these epics are very valuable, I think, for your team. There's that demon spawn that's very good. Demytha's excellent. Even Scabious isn't terrible. Scythilla, I think that's her name. Is that right? Scythilla? Thylesia isn't horrible. Like, they all bring a little bit something different, right? Something useful to the table. Sigmund the Hightower, I think, is actually excellent for this game. He's a really good carry, an excellent champion, really. He's going to help you get through a lot of content. But the thing is if you are already through a lot of content, he's not going to do anything for your account. He's not going to be better than a lot of those legendaries you already have. On top of that, and this is, I think, the other thing to keep in mind, he obviously takes a fair amount of books, right? Most of these champions do, but books are in such high demand. They are so hard to find. And we need so many of them to make our champions good. Like, even Demytha needs way too many books. Really, it's a shame that that's the case. But the thing is, it's like 10 times easier to find epic books than is legendary books. And because of that, I think that it makes, in a lot of ways, a lot more sense for your accounts just to have the epic champion, unless the legendary is going to blow them away. Because these are good epics, I really think it might be worth keeping. Now, look, every account's going to be a little different. For my account, I'm probably better off actually getting Sigmund, because I open enough shards where I will get a Demytha at some point or another. I'm probably actually just going to do the fusion for the epics this time around. And again, I'll miss out on Sigmund, but Sigmund does nothing for my account at this level either. So for someone like me, who does a lot of clan boss content, obviously, I think the epics are going to be way more valuable than getting Sigmund, simply for the fact that Sigmund's not going to help my account whatsoever. For most of you out there, you're well, for many of you out there, I would say you're probably in a similar situation. That said, if you are struggling with your dungeon runs, if you're struggling with your Doom Tower runs, Sigmund's going to be great for you. Definitely somebody you're going to want to get. But if that's not the case, if you are good with your PvE content outside of Clan Boss, I think Demytha is 100% the champion to get because her kit is the most unique out of all of them. There are champions that do what Sigmund does. There are no champions, and I say this again, no champions that do what Demytha does. Definitely worth getting in this fusion. Anyway, guys, that's our video today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Definitely hit the subscribe, like, and notification bell. Again, lots of thanks to Facemelter for putting this team together and Optilink for helping out. I just have amazing mods in my Discord. If you want their advice, please come join my Discord. There's links down below. Just some of the smartest people in this game are there. They're the ones helping folks out. I'm the one advertising what they put together. Basically, they're just amazing people. So definitely recommend coming by there. But yeah, other than that, guys, this was fun. Hopefully this was helpful and explained a little bit of how this kind of stuff works. And yeah, until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.